Welcome to Pimpy's Investment Chat, where we keep investment talk simple. And here's your host, Pimpy.
What is going on out there, peeps? All right, I dropped a video earlier. You gotta love how I spelled exchange on here. I didn't even fix it. I was like, yeah, we'll leave it there. No one will notice, but now that I brought it to your attention. So 322 exchange rate. Anyways, I dropped a video earlier explaining in detail so that people were aware of why that article is so important when they're talking about importing foreign exchanges, what that does to a country. So I broke it down so people had a better understanding. What I should have done was just a little bit more research so I can give you an idea of how it affects the currency in that country. So that's what this video is. I'm going to explain to you what that means for Iraq and the Iraqi dinar. All right, so let's get into this. Before we get started, do me a favor and hit the thumbs up button. And if you're not a subscriber, please do so, because when you do, it helps out the channel, and I certainly do appreciate it. If you're thinking about buying gold, silver, or any other precious metals, head on over to our friends at Money Metals Exchange. The link is down below in the description, or just type in www.moneymetals.com/Pimpy. So get started today, and hopefully your stack will start to look like this real soon. So head on over, tell them Pimpy sent you. You can follow me over on other platforms. I do have my own group over on Facebook called Pimpy's Investment Chat. Over here we do talk about gold, silver, cryptocurrencies, as well as foreign currency investments. So head on over here and join us. It's free to do so. In here I do post updates if I should get on suspension from YouTube or get removed from YouTube, and you want to know what happened to me, I'll let you know right here in this group. I can be found on Twitter, MeWe, YouTube, and the cool thing about YouTube, if you come over here and you join and you find my channel, I got videos going back, I believe, a couple years. So if you want to see some older videos that I have on Nasera, Jacera, gold, silver, cryptos, come on over here and join. Look me up and check out my videos. You can also find me on Odyssey. Catch me on Rumble. When I say that the links for all these are down below in the description, some of you don't know what I'm talking about. It's real simple. Just go down to the bottom right here of any of my videos. See this? This is the description. Hit show more. And there are all the links to all the platforms I just spoke about. So if you do want to head on over to Money Metals, just click it. And there you are. So come on over. Join us. I look forward to having you. So earlier today, I let my friend, he's a college professor. He's hard to catch, but every now and then I get lucky. He's the one that I will ask him questions sometimes if I'm unsure about something, and you'll hear me read off his answers. So I had hit him up earlier today, and I said that Iraq was now doing the import of foreign exchange. He goes, that's really good for Iraq. And yeah, this is pretty good news. And he explained it to me in detail. So I hit him up again later on, because what I should have asked him is, now that Iraq is doing this with the central bank, the import of foreign exchange, does that help the currency at all? So let's go over what him and I talked about. I said, so it appears to me like they have lifted one or all of the sanctions on the currency. He said, not necessarily, but this right here is a restriction. So yeah, you can consider this one of the sanctions, because they only talk about this one particular subject. He said he would look up the other sanctions later on and let me know what he thinks. I haven't heard back from them. But he said this here is a restriction. This is the lifting of a sanction. And I said, okay. So my question was, if sanctions are lifted on a country's currency, can this have significant effects on the value of the currency? And the response was, sanctions are typically imposed by one or more countries or international organization as a form of economic pressure to achieve specific political or economic objectives. These measures often restrict trade, financial transactions, and investments with the targeted country. When sanctions are lifted, it means that the restrictions on economic activities are removed, allowing for increased trade and financial interactions with the other countries. That's really good. He said, yeah, it's not good, that's great. He was saying, if you think about all the things that happened to Iraq, and these other countries too, like Zimbabwe, El Salvador, Venezuela, Iraq, these people were being punished. So they have restrictions on their currency. And a lot of times, like Iraq, we know about this. Whenever they pass a budget, they have to go over this with the United States to let them know what's going on. And the United States sends them the money that they need in order to put into accounts for people to do their projects. And he says, so, once a country gets their sovereignty back and they get the freedom to do whatever the hell they want because they're in control of their own country, then things could really change. So, yeah, this is a sanction that was lifted. This is opening the door for Iraq to start doing trade again with the international community. If you watch my video, I covered all the different things how this affects the economy in the whole 9 yards. This is his answer to if sanctions are lifted off the country's currency. He said, you will see an increase in demand. Lifting sanctions can increase the demand for the country's currency as it becomes more accessible for international trade and investment. With fewer restrictions, businesses and individuals from other countries can freely engage in transactions involving the currency, leading to an increase in demand. This increased demand can drive up the value of the currency. So there's other factors, but we're just breaking these down one at a time. Now, what would really be a super huge lift and give a ton of value to the Iraqi dinar is if they get away from the greenbacks and start using their own currency to do transactions for their oil. That would be huge. You would see improved economic conditions. Sanctions often have a negative impact on the country's economy by limiting its access to international markets, capital, and technology. When sanctions are lifted, it allows for increased trade and investment opportunities, which can stimulate economic growth. As the country's economy improves, investors may be more willing to hold and invest in its currency, thereby increasing its value. One thing that he suggested to me, he goes, look, if this thing goes up the way you think it's going to, you might want to hold on to some of them and not trade them all in. And I was like, oh, yeah, we've talked about that before. So, I think people just want to get rid of them. There's the fear that they would just screw things up again and lose the value. Market confidence. The lifting of sanctions can also boost market confidence in a country's economic prospects. Sanctions are often seen as a sign of political instability or economic weakness, which can deter investors and lead to a decline in the value of the currency. However, when sanctions are removed, it signals a positive change in that country's situation and can restore confidence amongst investors and traders. The renewed confidence can contribute to an appreciation in the value of the currency. I explained to him that I really thought it was going to go up in increments. I don't think we're going to see a reinstatement, and he was just agreeing with me. That doesn't mean we're right, but based on what we know, me and him shared ideas, and I said, I think even with this, you're going to see it go up in increments. So as the economy gets stronger and things get better, the currency is going to grow stronger, especially since our currency is getting weaker. It doesn't look like it right now, but it's about to crash. It is important to note that the impact of lifting sanctions on a country's currency value is not guaranteed and can vary depending on various factors, such as overall economic conditions. While we know that the budgets have been passed for the next 3 years, we know that a lot of projects have either gotten their funds or they're waiting for the funds. Just depends on the disbursement schedule. Geopolitical developments, well, we all know that Israel and Hamas are over there fighting, and now you got other countries getting involved. So hopefully it doesn't spread anymore. The latest rumor is there's going to be a ceasefire. So if that's the case, then that definitely will start to stable things out again. And market sentiment. So if these sanctions start getting lifted, I think it's going to put an overall positive feeling with the Iraqi people. Going to have a much better outlook on the future. We won't see so many uprisings, you hope. Again, you're dealing with a lot of different factions within Iraq. And God only knows, it doesn't take them very much to get mad at one another. So hopefully what this does, as Iraq opens up to the international community, the youth stops rising up to protest. People aren't so angry. There's going to be an increase in jobs. And people can start getting settled into their new life and be prosperous. Additionally, the specific measures taken to lift the sanctions and the speed at which they are implemented can also influence the currency's value. So you see, it's not just one action. There's going to be a combination of things. Right now with Iraq doing and saying the right things, saying that they're not going to get involved in this beef between Israel and Hamas or Palestine. They're not going to help escalate it. Al-Sudani's going to do what he can to protect our American soldiers. As long as none of them get killed and we don't look for an excuse to go in their country, things should be good. We know that Iraq got the green light to start allowing the oil to flow over to Turkey as well. When I asked him about the increase in the currency, he said, well, there's lots of factors in there. So I asked him if he happened to know historically if there's an increase or a decrease in the currency once they start to import foreign exchange. Is there any kind of data we could look at? He'll look for it to see if it's a positive or negative, but he said I would find it hard to believe that it would have a negative effect. I'm not saying it's not possible. What I'm saying is this particular function is very positive for the country. Most likely, we're going to find that most all the currencies went up in value. But what we're trying to figure out is what is the average percentage? Because obviously there's different things that are going to feed into how much this currency increases. So I'm just looking for the overall average and what was the circumstance. So he said that the average increase on the currency once a country starts to import foreign exchange can vary depending on various factors such as the economic conditions, trade policies, and market dynamics. It is important to note that currency exchange rates are influenced by a multitude of factors and are subject to fluctuations in the global foreign exchange markets. Okay, just so you guys know, just because they're doing the one thing, that doesn't mean that overnight you're going to get a reinstatement. I still think it's going to go up in increments. That's because there's too many factors that have to be looked at in order for an RI to actually happen. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible. This is just my opinion, you guys. I know a lot of you out there get pissy about what I say. Look, it's just my opinion, and I share why I come up with that opinion. For all I know, tomorrow we wake up and they reinstated a 322 rate. That would be awesome. And people are like, well, then we would make videos talking about how Pimpy was wrong. Yeah, okay. You got me. Jeez. That's one time that I won't be depressed about being wrong about something seriously, you guys. So as we go through this, you can see that he's wanting us to have a better understanding about what's going on, and also an understanding that it's not just one factor. There's many factors that help increase the value of the currency, but that this one move of them start to import foreign exchange, this is a biggie. This opens the doors for everything else. When a country begins to import foreign exchange, it typically means that it is increasing its imports from other countries and paying for those imports in foreign currencies. This leads to an increased demand for foreign currencies, which can have an impact on the value of the domestic currency. So, does Iraq have anything else outside of oil that they export? Well, we know agriculture is a big deal for Iraq, and that hasn't been doing very well lately. So hopefully they can get their agriculture going. Remember, we're looking for other avenues of revenue to help fund the budget other than oil. That's something to take in consideration. At the moment, the bulk of Iraq's exporting is oil. Historically, there have been instances where importing foreign exchange has led to an appreciation of the domestic currency. So he wanted to make sure that we saw some examples, and I don't know if it's going to help, but let's go over it anyways. This can occur when an increased demand for foreign currencies is met with sufficient supply, indicating a favorable balance of trade. When a country's imports exceed its exports, it creates a trade deficit, which can put downward pressure on the domestic currency. However, if the currency is able to attract enough foreign investment or generate other sources of foreign exchange inflows, it can offset the trade deficit and potentially strengthen its currency. One example of this can be seen in the case of Japan during its period of rapid economic growth in the 60s and 70s. As Japan became a major exporter and started accumulating large amounts of foreign exchange reserves, it experienced an appreciation of its currency, the yen. Remember, we're at record levels of foreign currency reserves for Iraq as well as gold levels. This was due to the increased demand for the yen from foreign investors and traders who needed it to purchase Japanese goods and assets. Another example is China's experience in recent decades. As China opened up its economy and became a major player in the global trade, it started importing more foreign exchange to meet its growing import demands. However, due to the various factors such as a government intervention and control over its currency, China has managed to maintain a relatively stable exchange rate despite its increase in imports. We call that currency manipulation. So it is important to note that not all countries experience an appreciation in the currency when they import foreign exchange. Okay, so I don't want you guys to get your hopes up too much. He just wanted to make sure that we stay grounded. You heard what he's saying. It's important to note that not all countries experience this. There are many factors in them. In some cases, a country may experience a depreciation in its currency if the increase in imports is not met with sufficient foreign exchange inflows, or if there is other economic factors at play. Iraq is, pretty war-torn. There's a lot of work that needs to be done in that country, a lot of infrastructure. So there's no doubt they're going to import a ton of things. Do they have the ability to counter the imports that they're going to be experiencing? Well, we know they got oil. We know they got a record high number of foreign currency reserves, and we know they got a record high amount of gold. They have other things other than agriculture as well as oil that they export. I'm curious to see how Iraq does over this next year. No, that doesn't mean it's going to take that long for something to happen with the exchange rate. I'm excited about it, of course, for investment purposes, but mostly for the Iraqi people. Anyways, you guys let me know what you think. I look forward to hearing from you. I'll catch you later. I'm out.